Hello everybody, we're here today at the Charles Schultz Museum here in Sonoma County, and we've been hanging out with our good friends Sama and Julie, and we just wanted to make a short video because prior to a couple of years ago I had not had any trans people come into my life, and within the last couple of years I've really had my eyes opened about those issues as I've had lots of trans people come into my life. And by trans, I'm using transgender, and there's a lot of terms sometimes that people get hung up on and confused on. And that's part of why we're making this video, because a lot of people don't really understand what it means to be transgender. So we thought we'd take a little bit to kind of talk about it and to introduce my friend Sama. Now you identify as transgender.
I identify as transgender.
Okay. So what does that mean to you? How do you think of yourself?
So in identifying as transgender, essentially what it means to me is that there's a gender binary is the word for it. The language is gender binary, but the society tends to have a general idea of what it means to be a boy and what it means to be a girl. But that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your sex, with your genetics and what you're born with. So what you're born with and how you behave and how you perceive the world, how you are perceived by the world, doesn't necessarily have to match. And someone who's transgender, it's a broad umbrella term, but for someone who's transgender, it means that the way they're born, the genes that they're born with, does not dictate the clothes that they wear, the music they listen to, what they cook, what they eat, how you live, how you dress, how you think, how you sound. So that's essentially what it means to me, but it is a variable definition because it's such a big term.
Okay, and now a lot of people get hung up on surgery as a big part of being transgender. You know, obviously if you were born into a particular body but you feel like you should have had a different one, I mean, how important is that to the experience of being transgendered?
Again, it's highly variable, but for a significant amount of transgendered people, they want to have surgery because they want their bodies to match how they feel they are socially, because who we are socially has a lot of bearing on who we are, and sometimes more than who we are genetically. How we identify ourselves is often how other people see us, and when those don't match up, then yeah, you want to sort of even it out and sort of balance out what you were born with. So for me, it's not necessarily an option because because of my health, and I would like to match, because if I wear men's clothes, they're not going to fit right. And that would just be sort of a really easy way to make an enormous change, and it would validate who I feel like inside, because it would look the same on the outside.
In terms of pushback from society, do you feel like you face more resistance for being perceived as a lesbian or for being trans?
Oh, that's a big one. It depends on whether or not I'm wearing shorts, actually. If people see me as, people very seldom interpret me as a lesbian unless it's in the context of Julie and me, because Julie identifies as a lesbian, and I don't go out of my way to reinforce the word trans, because the term doesn't matter as much to me as does just exist. So when people say I'm a lesbian, I don't really fight it because I don't care. The more important thing is that I know who I am, I'm comfortable, and I'm in love. So whatever you call it is not a big deal.
Right.
For other people, I think they're really, really upset when they hear, "Oh, you're a lesbian." They say, "Well, no, I'm a trans man." And instead of reacting with that, I mean, it is that little bit of gut sickness. Like if somebody called you a lesbian, it would make you probably a little bit nervous.
Right.
And it's that. It's like they've made a mistake, and you don't want to offset, you don't want to put them off and correct them, but you don't want to take it in and go into this whole dissertation either, because it's really a non-issue, because it's just living life.
So two things I would like to know in terms of acceptance, and one is, how does your family handle you as transgender? How do they accept or not accept you as a transgendered person? And do you feel like you face acceptance in the gay community as a transgendered person, or do you get just as much resistance there?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. Okay, family first. My family is generally sort of laissez-faire about my entire life. So for
That's
me,
awesome.
yeah, conveniently, I can just sort of exist, and they'll make a joke here or there. But my brother and sister are very kind about it. Now, I'm not as serious about changing the pronoun as other people who are trans. I sort of maintain that there should be a gender-neutral pronoun that we can rely on for people who are genderqueer or gender variant or gender non-conforming. But my family is really not interested in those kinds of things, so I'll just be, the other son or some other such thing. Our dog, I'm Lucy's daddy. And everybody's fine with that. And Julie's family has actually subscribed to that as well, because they understand that in the context of our relationship, I still validate that Julie's a lesbian. And we sort of had to explain that it's a different culture and it's a different life than somebody who's trans. But that, again, we're still who we are and we're still in love.
Now, in terms of the gay community, do you find that you get just as much resistance there as you do in the broader part of society?
I've heard there's a lot of ostracism from the lesbian community of FTM people. I don't know about MTF and that exchange, but it's something I should look into. But in the FTM community, it tends to not be concerned about it, but I don't think I miss somebody chastising me for not being a lesbian in the same way. Like, I get more crap about not being straight.
Right.
So
which I think is the real lesson. I mean, once you step outside of what's considered the normal box, it really doesn't matter in what direction you travel.
The only time that I sense being absolutely alone is when it's time to fight legislation for our rights, or it's time to march, and the trans community tends to join LGBT groups in all of their activism. But then when it's time for a trans bill to go up to the Senate, or it's time to approach the Capitol or any such thing, the population dwindles significantly, and there's so many fewer people out to support us. And I kind of wonder, what is it that's making that divide? Why is that okay? Because even if we're not the same label, here we are, and we're in love.
So one of the basic questions I probably should have asked earlier and didn't was, how did you come to an awareness as yourself as a transgendered person? How did you come to figure that out?
Well, there's two answers to that. The easy one is, I woke up one morning and I was getting dressed, and it was some sort of blouse or something just didn't fit comfortably, and I put on an extra layer of clothing, and then I put like another t-shirt on over that, and Julie was like, if you just ever want to transition, I'll support you. And I said, okay. And then it was the months following that I had to do a lot of writing and a lot of searching to say, I've actually always felt this way, and I was raised with my brother, and everything that I do is sort of in his character. We have a very similar point of view on things, and I'm much more comfortable being what I've always been, rather than becoming something that I'm not interested in becoming, like a strong young woman.
Gotcha. Well, I think you're a pretty strong person regardless.
Oh, thank you.
So what advice would you have to give to somebody who's just coming to an awareness of themselves as being transgendered, or who might even know that about themselves but don't know how to move forward?
Find support, number one. Whether it's online or in person, find support. Look at literature. Stop by your local library. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to go to the library. And in fact, it doesn't cost anything to go to the bookstore and flip through their gender studies section. You can also always write to anybody in a trans collab channel. So I'm part of Tranny Star Galactica, which is a channel where we discuss trans issues and all sorts of lifestyle questions. You can submit questions, we'll write back, offer support. The most important thing is to hang in there, because even if you decide that you're stressed out and trying to change is too much, maybe it is now, but you don't know what the future is going to bring. And take your time. Even if you change your mind later, that doesn't mean you made a mistake.
Awesome advice. And we've been having a good day hanging out with Sama and Julie. And we just wanted to take a moment to share it with all of you guys. Thanks for taking a moment to listen to us. Please check out Star Galactica. Please, as always, comment, rate, and share it with everybody. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.